there is no God. Samantha Boyle, from what I can tell, from what I have watched her videos, she is a young woman who converted to Islam at a very young age, and she's very dedicated to this religion. I don't think I have ever listened to a Muslim's perspective on what if there is no God before Samantha. A lot of times they don't necessarily answer this question, or they'll dance around it. So I'm actually quite pleased that I got an answer from Samantha in such an eloquent way. When I watched her video for the first time, I thought it was a very honest and a very humble response, and I want to thank her for that. A lot of people have said, you know, if there is no God, I would just run around committing crimes and doing terrible things because I would no longer have to answer to anyone higher than me. And that answer just feels kind of disingenuous. We all live in a society after all. But I really admire Samantha's answer. She said that by being a Muslim and following the Quran has made her a better person. And I felt like, you know, this is the way people of various religions should answer it. Because if they really are good people, then it should not matter. So I decided to write a comment on her video, and it said, as an atheist, this is the most grounded and most sincere answer I've ever heard from a believer. And you know what? Samantha hearted it. She gave me a like, personally. And I know this is the internet and this is really stupid and whatever, but it, like, you know, maybe she's not that bad of a person, right? Kinds of claims and appeals that other people who are under the kind of larger Abrahamic religion, Judeo-Christian Muslim umbrella. And so that is what I want to talk about in this video. My goal ultimately is to be open and generate open dialogue regarding religion and philosophy and psychology and humanity. Disclaimer: I am not here to bash Samantha Boyle. This is in no way an attack on her and her intelligence, nor do I think I am going to convert her or anybody else that is in her kind of general YouTube genre space. But also, when atheists on YouTube refute and discuss topics about religion and respond to religious YouTubers, it is mostly regarding Christian content and the Christian faith. So I wanted to discuss someone of the Muslim faith to show kind of a different perspective. And I also want to do this just to show people the commonalities in the arguments that typical believers use. Disclaimer number 2, I am an atheist. And I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on Christianity, Islam, or religions in general. Yeah, I'm probably a bad atheist because I haven't actually been all that updated with the Bible. I'm a millennial, sorry. I didn't really grow up with religion. I didn't have this huge exodus from a particular religion. So I don't want to say I grew up atheist, but I kind of didn't really grow up with a particular religion in my life. Maybe one day I will read the Quran. I think it would be a really interesting book to read. And maybe I would like to read the Bible or some other religious books in general. But I also think that they are a long way down in a stack of hundreds upon hundreds of books that I would love to read. And I don't know what to say. Maybe you can give me a link to a Quran audiobook and I will do my best to listen to it maybe 35 minutes a day? So I mostly want to talk about the arguments that she uses and not critique the religion or her knowledge on the religion itself. Because I'd probably not be very good at that, just saying. Any knowledge that I have of Islam comes mostly from mass media and whatever I've read online clips, as well as talking to my past Muslim friends when I was like in high school or in my young adulthood. And if I make a mistake regarding information within the religion, please do not take it the wrong way. Kindly correct me and maybe we can start a dialogue. This is also just to make a point. Please do not come after me and tell me that I cannot comment on this because I never read the books, or I do not ascribe to this faith, or that I could never relate to her because we just live a different life and she's gone through different things than I have. I am not trying to tell her how to live her life. I just want to review her points and start a dialogue, hopefully. So, what happens if you die and there is no God?
What happens if you die and you find out that there is no God?
The way she words this question is very strange to me. It's almost as if she is setting this up for a more personal answer. She is setting it up for this question to be more personal than it actually needs to be. You are not going to find out per se that there is no God. It's not like you're going to be lying on your deathbed and you're like still barely conscious and barely have any kind of brain functioning and you're like, I guess there is no God after all. It just kind of happens. And there is a God. Some piece of their consciousness will continue on after you die, and that will allow you to experience this angel of death that you talk about, and they will come and escort your soul up into heaven. Does she think that she is going to receive some kind of sign that there is or is not a God before she actually dies? The way she sets up the question kind of demands that she is going to be able to experience this and kind of demands a certain personal answer. And it thus primes her to think about this in a more personable way.
Get whatever you want to eat. Maybe you want to eat a cultural dish. I don't know. So today I'm drinking Twinings peppermint and lime tea. I honestly don't know if I like this yet.
Whatever you like to drink, eh? Well, okay, today I've got actually some orange pekoe tea. It's very British. Yes, we in Canada like our weird British tea. No, we don't. The Brits stole it from whoever else. Now, could I put some liquor in my tea, Samantha, while I'm talking to you? How about I make this into a drinking game? Or I'll shoot up some THC and ecstasy pills. Yeah, that'll help me get through this. Oh my gosh.
It's my graduation mug because I am a university graduate. Anyways.
So, Samantha Boyle is a university graduate. And the age of, I think she's 21 or 22 right now. So she's obviously very proud of her accomplishments. I am curious as to what her degree is actually in. I don't know if she actually mentions it in any of her videos. Maybe I should do some sleuthing. If this video gets anywhere, I'll find out eventually.
I don't think I've actually ever in my heart doubted that there was a God in my life because it just seems so unfathomable and I'll be honest, quite stupid to me.
So she thinks it's unfathomable and stupid for there to be no God. If I made this a drinking game for theist cliches, I would have already taken 2 drinks by now. But I'd rather not do that. So when you say that there has to be a God, or the idea that there is no God is absolutely stupid, when you look at all the universe and all this complexity and the complexity of life and planets and stars and butterflies and humanity, it couldn't have arisen from blind chance or the way the world works. Basically, what you are saying is, I don't understand the way the world is. I don't understand this. Therefore, X. It is called the argument from incredulity. Oh, it is so unfathomable that it must be true. You could say that literally about anything and it would mean nothing. How did the universe get here? I don't know. Period. If it is so stupid, then why are atheists on average more educated and more intelligent than the religious? I know this is not a real argument, but if you want atheists to take you seriously and respect your arguments, don't call it stupid.
I don't think I've actually ever in my heart doubted that there was a God in my life, because it just seems so unfathomable and, I'll be honest, quite stupid to me. I just feel like when you look at the alteration of the night and the day and the signs of the things around you in nature and the order of everything and the structure of everything.
Like, oh my god, look at the alteration of night and day, and the sun comes up, sun comes out. There's so much order and complexity in this world. There just seems so much purpose. Everything has been fine-tuned for life. Look at the trees, the birds, the flowers. Everything just demands that there be a freaking God after all. Like, this could not have arisen from just sheer chance and the laws of science and mathematics. Molecules colliding with one another at random. Strike physics off the possibilities of her major, am I right?
That couldn't have possibly risen from chance, and there had to be a greater power that created that.
Man, I kind of wish I did make this into a drinking game now that I think about it. So there had to be a greater power that created the universe and everything in the cosmos and in existence. The complexity of life just demands that there be a creator. It's just so improbable that there has to be one. This is called the teleological argument. I kind of expected Samantha Boyle to be more of a cosmological argument kind of girl. But I can roll with teleological. All around you, you see all this complexity. Complexity can only come from a designer. The universe is so ordered and complex for humanity that there must be a designer, and we call this designer God. Problem 1 with this argument is that it is a deistic argument. Even if I accept your premise, and even if I accept that this points to an intelligent, thinking, creating God, you have not proven your particular God, nor your particular religion. I don't think she's wearing it in this video, but Samantha often wears a really nice watch on her wrist. And I know that a watch has a designer. I know that a painting had a painter, because there is no other way that a watch or a painting could be made. By setting this up like this, you see design everywhere. You are tricking your mind into seeing design everywhere. And you have no way of telling a complex, non-designed thing from a complex, designed thing. We simply have no comparison to what a universe would look like if it were designed by a God, and what a universe would look like if it were designed without a God. So I think it is unfair to make your statement. If the universe is so complex that it demands there to be a designer, then that designer must be so much more complex and so much more improbable than the universe itself. And when you say things like this, you are also exercising your hyperactive agency detection device. Your what? Basically, throughout our evolutionary past, humans have become programmed to see agency everywhere. The classic example is you hear a rustle in the bushes, and it could either be the wind, or it could be something behind the bushes going to jump out and eat you. The individual who thinks it is a predator and runs away is going to be more likely to survive than the person who thinks that this is just a rustling in the wind, it is just my imagination, and gets eaten by a tiger. And in fact, if one were to go and investigate what that sound is, they're probably even less likely to survive than the person who just assumed it was a predator and ran away. Yeah, science isn't fun when you're a caveman trying to fight for your life in the woods, is it? So, evolutionarily speaking, it is more profitable to assume that there is an agent behind certain occurrences in our everyday lives, in our everyday world, and thus the consequences of assuming an agent where there is not one are more often less than the consequences of assuming there isn't an agent when there is one, particularly an agent that can affect us and then affect our lives in a negative way that could lead to our death. And of course, the ultimate assumption of agency is a God. How we perceive this God and whether or not we believe this God is going to affect us negatively or positively will impact how we act and how others will act around us. I guess those who believed in a God would be more likely to survive, and this belief would also make these individuals more likely to have children, and they would teach those children about said agent, and so on and so forth. And throughout time, human beings would begin to attribute human desires to this entity and concoct ways to please him or her from what seemed to work and what seemed to not work. Kind of like an investigation mixed with a little bit of confirmation bias. Eventually we would get to things that kind of just reinforce already existing ideas within our society. And since most religions encourage people to have children and to have lots of children, have children in very specific ways, this helps to perpetuate the beliefs within a given culture.
I just thought, is that really such a bad life? See, the way that I think about it, and this is as a revert, as somebody that wasn't always Muslim, but who now is that this path is better to take even if, hypothetically, there is no God. And even if, at the end of it, which honestly, like, astaghfirullah, like, Allah please forgive me for even saying that. Even if at the end of it, we do just die and there is nothingness. I just feel like this path in life is better to take, even if that is the case. I actually find pleasure and joy following these rules. And I genuinely feel that every single rule in Islam helps my personal growth.
When she says that she believes that she is a better person and that this is the path to follow even if there is no carrots at the end of the stick, that she is a better person because she followed the teachings of the Quran and became a Muslim. But the other half of the argument is, were you asking yourself these questions when you became a Muslim, when you came into the religion at, say, 10 years old? You have primed yourself in such a way that the answer, yes, there's a God, yes, I'm going to live my life this way, has a large thumb on the scale in your lifestyle towards this answer and towards how we act.
I just feel like this path in life is better to take, even if that is the case, which I know that it's not.
Life without purpose is often not worth living. Whatever makes you sleep at night, honey. But I guess people often need these rules, need the structure, need the God watching them to be a good person and keep them grounded and keep them on this path. They need things to be laid out for them rather than coming to conclusions themselves.
I have still lived a life in which I'm proud of, and that I'm doing good and being good in order to have the reward of good later.
I guess the question is, could you be the person you are? Could you be a good person? Could you strive to do the acts of kindness and the good things that you do without a God, without Islam pushing you? And could people take the information or the lessons from these religions and attempt to be a good person using these standards, but divorce it from God? Now, if you are going to be religious, if you are going to believe something, I truly do believe that this should be your answer. Because oftentimes I hear people saying things like, oh, if there was no God, I'd just run around killing and murdering people and I would have no concept of morality. And my answer is that, please keep believing. Please. Like, I'm actually scared of you. But you've also set yourself up such that the only way you could conceive of knowing that there is or is not a God is when you're on your deathbed and you've already lived your life. Could you continue this path if you knew it was not the truth? If you actually found out within your lifetime that this is not going to happen, would you stop, or would you think you have wasted your life? Could you live this life without the carrot at the end of the stick? Yes, people need structure, people need order, people need rules, and perhaps the only way certain people can be good is if they have constant rules and a lot of structure. And when I hear this person say this, it sounds like she's saying, if I did not do this, I would not be the person that I am. Perhaps I could be good, but I could not be as good. Could you have been this person without religion? Could you have been this person a deus? Could you possibly have learned to be a better person and be the member of society that you are, or be a functioning member of society without your faith? Like, did you really need a God to tell you that drinking alcohol in excess is probably not good for you? Did you really need a God to say, you know what, I probably shouldn't drink alcohol? Do you think that someone could read the book, like the Quran, for example, and follow its teachings and aspire to be a better person without believing in Allah as the one true God? Could you have come to these conclusions without Islam?
A better person, something that makes me more happy and more content and more fulfilled, that will be invaluable for the things that are to come for your future. So when I think about things like hijab, the fact that I do have to cover myself and dress modestly, the fact that in Islam you're not supposed to pluck your eyebrows, the fact that in Islam you're not supposed to wear makeup in front of men that are not directly related to you, I genuinely deem all of these things as a protection for you. I genuinely believe that I'm being restricted from these things in order to be protected. And I have seen that because I have...
Would you want to cover your hair if it were not for Islam? Yeah, like, I guess it is a good idea to wear a scarf over my head and not wear makeup and dress a certain way if men are less likely to catcall me and undress me with their eyes. and take me more seriously as a person and desire me for what is in my heart rather than my looks. I mean, if I believed that men were going to constantly undress me with their eyes, and I am nothing but a mere object unless I do these things, I might decide to wear a headscarf too. I mean, this picture kind of just sums up all internet hijabis anyway. You go, girl. But I guess if you are coming from this standpoint, then your heart is probably not in the right place to begin with. Because you will be less open to these teachings, and without the promise of an afterlife and some vague concept of paradise, you might not be willing to follow every single rule if you knew there was no carrot at the end of the stick.
Life in terms of religion, I love the feeling of intentionally doing good and being intentional about the way that I spend my time in order to have good, and that really matter.
Honestly, her answer is kind of inspiring, and it is the answer that I hope people of religions can aspire to have.
The way that you're actually impacting the world, you get so caught up in beauty, you get so caught up in clothes, you get so caught up in all of these ridiculous things that you forget what truly matters in life. Change them as trends change within society. I have personally experienced the emptiness of that. I have personally experienced the emptiness of living in a society as a female that tells you that you need to wear makeup in order to be beautiful, that you need to wear makeup in order to be valued. And I have thought, you know what? Stuff this. So when Islam tells me that I don't and shouldn't be doing this, and Islam is restricting me in these areas, do I see the wisdom behind it? Yeah, I do. Do I think that that is something that further fulfills me? Yeah, I do.
Yes, living life constantly obsessed with beauty and fashion can be so empty, but looking at your channel and your lifestyle, you have just found workarounds in your life rather than actually not obsessing over fashion and beauty. You're just doing these things in an Islamically permissible way. When I study people, I often see the people who are given large amounts of structure and rules and are told to live a certain way tend to reject that, or tend to hit a breaking point where they reject this lifestyle and run away from rules and start to live life more freely without the structure. But when people grow up without rules, without structure, and are often told they can do anything, and they live a very reckless life, their life often starts to demand structure. And this is when they turn to things like religion. So you've helped the world be a better place, and you have done acts of kindness, and you have aspired to be what is your perception of your best self, and that is good. But for me, the way I can be my best self is for me to simply be true to myself. And right now, my answer is that I don't see the evidence, and I understand the science such that I understand how a universe can be formed without a God. I understand the science enough to be confident to say that this world can exist without a God, without intelligent intent, without design, without purpose. However, it is not random, and that is good enough for me. So I tend to think that the people who are able to give to charity, be kind, help the poor, take care of others, look out for the environment, look out for animals without God, are better people. Because they are compelled to do good without the reward of this hypothetical amazing afterlife. And I want to strive to be that person, to do good and live my best life for myself and for the world and for others around me, without the promise, without the reward of an afterlife, without the compulsion.
Then I would still feel contentment. And I would still be so wholly and completely happy with the way that I have lived. But I can't help but wonder about the atheist. When an atheist is on their deathbed and in a real life world, they see the angel of death hovering over them, waiting to tear their soul from their body. How are they going to feel?
What if there is a God, and in this hypothetical situation it is the Islamic God, and the corresponding angel of death comes upon you and you are confronted with a God? What does the atheist do? And now we have come upon Pascal's wager. It is unfortunate that you would have done yourself a disservice by not believing. I do not know if this person realizes it, but I can't choose to believe in a God. And if I could, wouldn't this God see through my disguise? Also, which God? Do you entertain the possibility that the Almighty is Zeus? Or Thor? Or whichever? A believing and devout Christian, for example, be welcomed into heaven if it turns out that Islam is the correct religion. I don't lose anything. I lose a life of open decisions and evaluation. I would lose the life I've lived. And that is a tragedy.
I read a quote years ago and it really stuck with me, and it was, if we both die and we realize that there is no God, then neither of us would have lost, because there is nothingness. But if we die and we realize that there is a God, then I would like to have won by believing. And it's unfortunate that you would have done yourself a disservice by not believing.
If there is a God, and if I did meet this God, I would hope that they would see my life for what it was, and that I did everything within my power to be a good person and the best person I could be. I loved people and I desired to be good for myself and for others around me. I strove to understand the world in the best way I knew how. And I strove to see beauty and purpose in everything I did. And I would hope that God would see that I strive to be the best person I could be, given my circumstances and given the mind that He gave me. And any God that was not merciful enough to pardon me from an eternal torture where my skin would be ripped off and put back on and burned off again, or whatever the terrible hell is. If this God was not merciful to me, He is not worth my time. He would not be worth the worship.
And I don't know. That's just my answer to that question.
And so this is my answer.